Yeah, what it is. Welcome back to another episode of the Big T Debate. I go with the name of Danny Pacheco. And if you're not so familiar with what goes down here, we pretty much just talk about everything related to pop culture and music. And it feels really weird just to talk about these things because, I haven't really been, fulfilling things on my end in terms of, making sure that you get this consistently. But I'd like to apologize for that, for people who felt that me just going missing for a young week might have just messed up with their plans because I know how it is just to be a frequent consumer of something, and you go to the platform on the regular days that the individuals or even like the entity in itself promised to drop the actual thing, and it's not there for you to actually consume. So it's a really weird situation just to be caught up in. But I'm back, and I'm actually feeling really fresh and excited about just the music that's been popping around in the world of music in SA. Hip hop piano stages, pumping out the music. And amongst like one of the exciting things in the world of piano is just seeing Focalistic's journey pretty much, from just dropping an EP last year, Quarantine to Tarantino, to now just be over every single place that you can imagine in the world, just really just feeding the people what we know today as Amapiano, And I think a great highlight was just like the trip that he's had there in Dubai, having like a 3-day sort of residency styled gig guide, seeing him performing taking out his friends to just, see the world together. It's really just an exciting thing. But there's one thing that he mentioned not so long ago as I was just scrolling through Twitter, and it kind of left me feeling a bit touched, because I'm a big fan of, interviews. And he was just talking about this whole idea of like he doesn't want to do interviews no more because he feels that certain journalists and broadcasters in SA some misquote and then somehow people just twist his words and all of that. And I feel like it's a big part of the game. When I was reading that tweet, I was like, I don't think that's something that you can really be mad about, because you are gonna encounter such individuals in the world of music. I feel like sometimes you might have to toughen up, but also the fan in me, who's really a big fan of interviews, like I mentioned earlier on, was also disappointed in the fact that we might never get to at least understand the certain things that he says in the music. Like it gets wapitori, like I understand the lingo, but there's certain things I feel like they deserve a proper sit down where you can find Focalistic there one-on-one with whoever is interviewing him, and they just pretty much just start talking about the content that he talks about in the music. I mean, most of the people that I love today or have grown to know today, my opinions about their music changed as soon as I listened to these interviews and watched these interviews. Because it's one thing to just be recommended some music by someone like most of the times when people tell me such things, I'm a bit lazy because I like to think that even the people that we listen to today, back then I was doing a whole lot of digging, like your Kendrick Lamar's, your A$AP Rocky's, your J. Cole's. We were bumping those dudes back in the day. Not saying that I'm trying to brag or anything, but like we used to dig for music, and those were like one of the artists that we found at the beginning of their journey, and now today they're like household names. So just that whole process of just actually just jumping into music and listening to someone or giving someone a chance and giving their music a spin is a difficult process, but like when there's things like interviews, it makes it even more easier because like you get to know the other side. You look into the process of how like the music in itself is actually made, but I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too much about this. But I did see Zeus of the creative corner, and he was talking about how, hey, if you are still going to stand on your word in terms of not trying to do interviews anymore, I feel like, at least do me this one solid and give me the last final chance to actually just interview you. And I think that would be really interesting because, I like what Zeus and the Creative Corner have been doing. I've been mentioning this every now and then on the platform, talking about how, they're responsible for so many of these household names that we know in the new wave. Zeus's journey is just something that's really amazing. Like if you don't know about the Creative Corner, go check out the Instagram page. It's called Creative, but with a K, like Creative And then the corner also is not with a C, is with an actual K. So just go check out the page, see what they actually do in terms of like, publishing things related to just the music and everything. New wave and everything just around surrounding music in general, And there's just something that I wanted to mention, but now I'm forgetting. I think we're still on that note of pretty much just like looking into the process of music. Not so much on just like interviews alone, but just like documenting music, And I think the thought had to do with Pretty Ugly's new drop, because before we actually got the album, there was like a young promo run that he was doing in terms of like giving us snippets and a few songs, pretty much like just showing people his capabilities, that I can actually rap. And there was like a docu-style series that he dropped on YouTube by the Gas page, which is his record label's page. And just looking at those videos that he was dropping in that docu-style series was really dope, because the conversations that were had and the whole process of just the album in itself. I'm still yet to get into the full-on album, but just seeing that whole process come into play, more so just like the conversations like I mentioned, is something that I felt like was really magical about that whole process of actually making the album. Because I remember him having a conversation with his manager, Vaughn, and they were talking about how he got to deciding that, hey, 2021, I'm done trying to show people that I can actually make music. Because like there's a whole lot of people also who were not appreciating my music because they thought it was weird. Because like his cadences, it's different. He experiments with like a whole lot of pockets within the music, so that not even so that like it just gets to a point where people are not even understanding what he's saying. But with this one, when he had the conversation with his manager, it was this thing of, yo, you remember how people used to respond to your music when you're just doing that experimental stuff with Wiki? Now you have a chance, because when you drop the Freestyle Friday with Stogie T, a lot of people were talking like, oh, you can actually rap, So I guess like Vaughn in a way was just trying to direct him towards that. Like, and I think that's the pocket that you should actually be in. And just to see that just come out into full fruition with this release of this album, because I never really got a chance to listen to the rest of the project. But as far as like the singles that dropped, I know a couple of the singles that dropped, and I actually dig them. But just getting to be within that space, in the social media space on Twitter, just seeing people having conversations about that album in itself was really amazing, because it's just like a young testament pretty much to just what these conversations that you have with certain individuals in your team could actually do, or how they even just play out in real life. You were talking about this not so long ago, and then boom, people are actually receiving this well. So sometimes you don't really have to be the best in terms of music. It's just really just knowing where your strengths lie, and I think that's where Priddy is. And I'm not saying that him just giving us raps is just one thing that we want to hear like on a permanent kind of level, but just him just showing people that, hey, there's more to me than just music that you guys don't understand. I actually do this rap thing was really amazing to see. I mean, also just besides just like the whole positives derived from just the little that we've been talking about so far, there's one thing that just didn't really sit well with me in terms of just people and this whole idea of like entitlement. Like I remember like when Kanye was like, hey, I want to run for president, and people were like, oh, this dude's crazy. And then he had a whole scene where he was crying. I'm not so sure in terms of like how real that was, because I don't know, when people get into like the political game, sometimes it's really hard to believe any word that someone says, because you think about such things like propaganda and people just doing things just to get votes. But you could tell like even when he was crying, it was coming from a real passionate kind of place, even though the things that he was talking about there were really disturbing. But the reason why I put in this whole idea of like Kanye is because there's someone who I feel like might have done a lot within the space of arts and entertainment, just like Kanye, and he deserves just as much as a big break or a chance for people to actually look into him and see what he is capable of doing within that art space. and that is Zakes Bantwini. I was on Twitter, and Zakes just, tweeted. He's like, yo, I want to run for the Minister of Arts, Sports and Culture. I feel like I could do a lot. Just looking at what we've been going through during this whole pandemic, I just feel like, the arts world, sports, culture, just that whole fraternity in itself hasn't been shown that much love. And I feel like besides sports, sports has always had support, even though there might have been certain cases where people might have needed to just convince certain individuals who empower that, hey, maybe a certain type of sport exists, but like they've always gotten that support. But when it comes to like the entertainment industry also, that's just something that's been shaky this whole pandemic, because they had only just started in terms of like getting attention and trying to figure out the whole game with the music thing just late like 2019, and then boom, you go into a pandemic, and a lot of people maybe within your circle already know you as someone who's taken on being just a musician as a full-time thing. You may not even have any other skills to offer within the labor market. All you know is just making music, and then boom, you get hit by a pandemic, and then a whole Minister of Arts, Sports and Culture talking about artists and everyone within that fraternity is going to get support. And then when you apply, it's as if like you kind of brushed off to the curb, because for some reason they just keep on denying you that financial aid. And that's just the reality of the situation within SA. Like a lot of musicians haven't really been benefiting off like just the lockdown or the lockdown regulations, as they have been continuously just been implemented. Like it's like the president is just playing a whole game with people. Like he chooses when to put this thing on and put this thing off. But I guess like one thing that really interested me in that whole Zakes debacle was just like what people were highlighting in terms of saying that he was kind of like chancing or like taking chances by just saying that he wants to run for the Minister of Arts and Culture because they feel like he's not capable, which I find really weird, because I did mention earlier on, like this dude has really put in the time, put in the work. He's even going to be studying in a course at Harvard that only takes in like 50 people. You have to be out here and motivating why you even want to study at Harvard University, and he's one of those people who's going to be studying something related to the entertainment industry, that side. And besides that, I feel like even in the past he's tried his bit in terms of like certain charities here and there with sports and arts, and for people just to question his capabilities within this space, I feel like is really unfair. And one thing that really messed me up was one comment where they were like, you guys should just chill and not even participate in terms of trying to change that situation within the arts world and the arts and entertainment world, because they feel like the entertainment space doesn't contribute anything to the economy. And that's when you start seeing someone like Zakes showing people that he is more than capable, because he is well backed in terms of knowledge, because he came with the facts. He was telling people like, yo, in the year 2016, about I think he was talking something around like the figures of 90 something. I'm not sure if it was 90 billion or 90 something, but in 2016 that was the amount that he was playing around with in terms of like the creative economy and what they've been contributing towards the game. And for people to still feel like, hey, this entertainment industry is light, and you're looking at such numbers, it's really weird. It's just baffling to me, pretty much, like for people to still just downplay the art world and everything that it's been contributing. But I feel like it's high time also that we get to a point where we're being represented by people who actually have been within that space. It's kind of hard to just trust someone to lead when they don't even have the stamps to prove it, or some sort of qualification like, yo, I've actually done this thing. So for me, if he were to run, like he would get my vote, because I'm kind of tired of just seeing tweets about just congratulating people, and then obviously commemorating the ones that have passed, because that just seems to be the trend with the whole Department of Arts, Sports and Culture. Like, that's the only thing that they have to say. But when it comes to like, hey, we're struggling here, and Babi's about to already level 5, level 4, we're not getting any aid, any sense of like support from you guys, all they have to say is just congratulate people whenever they do great things, and then that's just that. So I feel like, we need to get to a point where we are just represented by people who really do feel like, they belong, or they have certain, qualifications just to show, And I guess like finally for us is just to get to a point where we could close off. It would be weird for me to just talk about all these controversial things and not really, at least like, celebrate the things that have been happening within the world of music. And what's been dope this past week is just seeing how people have been consistently just working. I never really got to catch the release of the now Sizwe Alkaline, who was formerly Reason, but felt like it was a dope moment to just highlight on the show and talk about, his song that he released for DJ Maphorisa. It's kind of getting spins from, everyone. Our Major League, I don't know if they're still in Ghana, but like last week they were in Ghana just doing a couple of shows, and they were playing his songs there. So, I mean, that particular song, to be more precise, they were playing that song, and I feel like it's really a dope space that we're in, just seeing a whole bunch of hip-hop artists also just, trying to convert themselves. But I feel like, convert might be a stronger word to just, pretty much explain this whole thing, but just them just dabbling into different genres, or just noticing where the opportunities are, because I think that's what piano is doing pretty much right now. It's just like a genre that's giving a whole lot of opportunities to a lot of people, and if there's anything that you would want to be proud of as someone from South Africa, is just, jumping on a genre that is fully South African and portraying everything that is dope to be South African, So I see a whole lot of people jumping on it. Besides him, I mean, like, Boity's also previewing some new music. I saw an IG Live where she was just also trying to play around with the sound, and sounded pretty decent, even though a lot of people are still not sure what to make of it. But I seen that it was just like her first attempt at just, jumping on the piano song. Maybe as time goes, we might grow to love her beyond just what she's been doing on hip-hop, because, she's been killing the whole hip-hop thing anyway, And them two that finally released Emlanjeni, which is also awesome, because people have been waiting for the music. And, I think at this point in time, I'm low-key starting to just question, like, his management and, the record label that he's actually signed to, because, like, I don't know how these things of, like, music just leaking happens, or how it works. But, there has to be some sense of, like, damage control, or even if there isn't damage control in terms of, like, trying to fill out the loose ends on how the song got to the public. But if it's already out there and people have these songs, I think the best that you could do is just, release it, I mean, people had to just constantly just be on these Twitter mentions talking about, hey, when you're going to release the song, and eventually he released the song, which was good to see. And I feel like we've been doing a whole lot of talking. I could go on for longer, but I feel like this is where we're gonna end it off today. It's actually really great to be back, just doing this whole thing. Feel free to hit that subscribe button, tell a friend and tell a friend. This has been the Big T Debate, and I'm Danny Pacheco. Peace. Peace.
Please.
Please.
Please.